Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. And woe means destruction. And these three woes are speaking of World War I, World War II, which are both past, and World War III, which is quickly coming upon us. And the main part of World War III, the culmination, the finale, is going to be in that so-called Middle Eastern region, really Western Asia, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon in Joel chapter 3. And the U.S. military will reinstate a draft to bolster its ranks to fight in that war. And we can see right now that most branches of the military are in dire straits to meet their recruitment quotas. Hence, while they're lowering standards for possible recruitees and coming up with, new programs to, make the military enticing again to new members as well as veterans. And that's what I'll be dealing with in this video. And if, a military can't reach its enlistment numbers during a state of war, what do you think's going to happen? A draft. And with this information I'll be going into, it's just going to further illustrate the dire straits that the U.S. military is in reaching its enlistment quotas. But the first bit of info I'll be going to is on Veterans InfoTap's YouTube channel. And the title reads, Recalled to Duty, Are You Ready? Retirees are being called on to serve again. Where is this going? And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And I'm going to play about the first 3 minutes or so of this video.
Thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Are you ready? That should be the question. And look, I'm not sure if this is just going to be a one branch thing, but right now it is starting off that way. Here's the headline. Air Force seeks retirees to come back to active duty. Service offers up to 4 years on active duty for returning pilots, security forces, and others. So let's jump into it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I really appreciate it. And look, here's my question: Is this I guess a snapshot of what the future is going to hold? I mean, think about it. We're having extremely difficult recruiting times, and
the people that are in the eligible age range to join the military right now, the majority of them in the U.S. are overweight, mentally unstable, just completely through. It's gotten so bad that even the Navy has said that you don't even need a high school diploma or a GED.
Now they're looking to knock on those that have already served on their doors to try to get them to come back. What's the next stage after this? Voluntold?
Voluntold, i.e. a draft.
It's a bit of a slippery slope, and I don't know. Maybe this is just a softball thing, but let's go through it and figure it out. See if we can read between the lines anywhere. But I do find this fascinating. All right, so the two asks are really, look, if you can hit that thumbs up and you can watch the video, that's what gets this message on. All right, moving on. Here we go. It starts off, and this is from the Air Force Times, so obviously a targeted audience. Regret retiring? ? Here's your shot at a second chance in the Air Force. The service announced Wednesday that it will reopen a recall program to fill as many as 1,000 mid-career commission and enlisted jobs, including pilots, combat systems officers, recruiters, air traffic controllers, and more. Very interesting. The move comes as the Air Force looks to plug critical staffing holes, recruiting shortfalls, facing renewed tension in the Middle East and possibility of conflict with China. Wonderful.
Renewed tensions in the Middle East.
The application window for the voluntary retired return to service program.
And I even saw a little ad on a website, one of those paid promotions saying, click here for seniors that are interested in starting a new career in the military. Things are getting real dire out here. And when a nation starts looking on the older, people among its population to join the military to fill its ranks, hey, times are critical. Look at World War II. Towards the end with Germany, they started, recruiting young boys and old men to try
Opens
to continue
Thursday.
to fight the war.
The Air Force said in a release, applications must be submitted by January 31st, 2026. So it looks like a 2-year window to serve on active duty for no more than 48 months. Those selected can expect to return to uniform between 4 and 6 months after they apply. The VRRAD program is a strategic enabler to embrace experienced talent, tapping into a valuable resource of retired members to fill critical roles to close the gap against our peer competitors. Lieutenant General Caroline Miller, the service's uniformed personnel chief, said in a release. The program is limited to commissioned officers who held the rank of captain through lieutenant colonel, as well as former enlisted staff sergeants through senior master sergeants. Retirees who served in the medical, legal, and chaplain corps, known as non-line officers, are ineligible to return. While anyone who is eligible may apply, regardless of the job they had while in uniform, the Air Force is focusing on bringing back a range of commissioned roles from pilots and combat system officers to cyber specialists, contracting officers, and more.
Pilots and combat systems.
The service also wants to staff up its enlisted corps in fields like recruiting, air traffic control, security forces, healthcare, and others. A briefing about the program.
That's it with this clip. You get the main point. But I found the top comment very interesting from Denny Thomas 8887. As a vet, not a retiree, all I can do is repeat a phrase that's been passed around the vet community. There was a time I would have given my life for what this country stood for. Now I would give my life to protect my family from what this country has become. And, a lot of veterans have this sentiment because those that fought in the wars or just been in the system are seeing through the bullshit and the lies of the system. What they enlisted to fight for and, they thought they were protecting is not what the U.S. military or the USA is anymore. So, with these programs coming out, you're going to see a lot of vets, and a lot of retirees say, fuck it. Hey, I'm going to worry about my own. So, that's just going to make the situation that much more critical out here, pushing what? Closer and closer to a draft. But now I'm going to go to my next bit of information just to show how desperate, the U.S. is to bolster its ranks, its military. This is an article from APnews.com titled, "Join the Military, Become a U.S. Citizen. Uncle Sam wants you and Vu and two." We can't get veterans, retirees to re-enlist. The majority of our young population is ineligible to even, be in the military. Hey, let's go to the immigrants. When Esmita Spoods Badari was a young girl in Nepal, she dreamed of being in the military, but that wasn't a real option in her country. Last week, she raised her right hand and took the oath to join the U.S. Army Reserves, thanks in part to a recruiter in Dallas who also is Nepalese and reached out to her through an online group. Badari, who heads the basic training in August, is just the latest in a growing number of legal migrants enlisted in the U.S. military as it more aggressively seeks out immigrants, offering a fast track to citizenship to those who sign up. And they're saying legal migrants, right here. But I've heard, reports saying that those illegal migrants flooding across the border, they're talking about saying, look, if you join the military, hey, that'll fast track your citizenship. Struggling to overcome recruiting shortfalls, the Army and the Air Force have bolstered their marketing to entice legal residents to enlist, putting out pamphlets, working social media, and broadening their outreach, particularly in inner cities. And who mainly dwells in those inner cities? Your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the true children of Israel, which, my next bit of information, I'm going to get into you, Northern Kingdom, and your part to play in this. One key element is the use of recruiters with similar backgrounds to these potential recruits. It is one thing to hear about the military from locals here, but it is something else when it's from your fellow brother from the country you're from, said Badari, who was contacted by Army Staff Sergeant Kaldeen Lama, the Dallas recruiter, on a Facebook group that helps Nepalese people in America connect with one another. That brother was in the group and he was recruiting, and he told me about the military. The military has had success in recruiting legal immigrants, particularly among those seeking a job, education benefits, and training, as well as a quick route to becoming an American citizen. But they also require additional security screening and more help filling out forms, particularly those who are less proficient in English. Both the Army and the Air Force say they will not meet their recruiting goals this year, and the Navy also expects to fall short. Pulling more from legal immigrant population may not provide large numbers, but any small boosts will help. The Marine Corps is the only service on pace to meet its goal. So from veterans to retirees to immigrants, the U.S. military, all branches are desperate to, fill their ranks. And remember, one woe is past, and behold, two woes more come hereafter. And World War III is going to involve the big boys, Russia, China, Iran, etc., etc. So the U.S. is definitely going to need warm bodies to throw into the meat grinder. But now I'm going to go to my last bit of information on ReubenGallego.house.gov, and it was published on March 9th of 2023, and it reads, Gallego bill to allow Dreamers to join the military. Washington, D.C., Representative Ruben Gallego, Arizona 03, and Representative Salud Caballero, California 24, today introduced the Fight for the American Dream Act legislation that creates a pathway for participants of the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival DACA program to join and serve in the United States military. Brought to the United States as children, DACA recipients have worked their entire lives to achieve their American dream. They've attended college, started businesses, and contributed so much to the country they call home, said Gallego. Immigrants from all over the world can join our armed forces, but dreamers have been excluded from that same opportunity. My bill fixes that by giving dreamers the opportunity to serve and in return provide a path to permanent residence. I'm proud to join with Representative Caballero on this common sense legislation, and I look forward to working with my colleagues on this effort. Jump to the last paragraph. Currently, DACA recipients are barred from joining the armed forces. The Fight for the American Dream Act reverses that. Similarly, For DACA recipients who are honorably discharged after their service, the act creates a pathway to permanent residence status. The bill also comes at a time of historic recruitment shortfalls across the United States Armed Forces. So, hey, several, pieces of information showing that the U.S. military is in dire need of recruiting people to fill their ranks. Again, whether they're veterans or retirees, immigrants, those that are a part of DACA, et cetera, et cetera. And this situation is only going to get worse and worse, especially as these conflicts that the U.S. is involved in intensify across the planet to where it's ultimately going to lead into a draft. And to those of you that are drafted into the military to go fight in the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, you better come to terms with that being, your final resting place. And a lot of men are going to get drafted and a lot of men are going to die. So much that, it's going to be a dearth out here. But let's get back into these scriptures. This is 2nd Esdras in the Apocrypha, chapter 16. I'm going to read verses 33 to 34. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. A lot of women at different points in their lives mourning because they don't have any men. Why? Verse 34, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. One woe is past, and behold, 2 woes more come hereafter. Hey, that draft is coming, and a lot of men are going to get drafted and go die in World War III, to where you're going to have a lot of single women out here mourning because they have no protectors, no helpers. And it's going to be a lot of you so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Israelite men that are going to be fighting and dying in World War III. But now I'm going to close it out in Joel chapter 2, verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the Northern Army, the North American Army, the United States military, all branches, the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, which again are all having issues getting people to enlist, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, that Middle Eastern region, Western Asia, the Valley of Jehoshaphat, with his face toward the East Sea. And when you look at a map of the Middle East, Saudi Arabia is going to be the main staging ground for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, and the U.S. has a heavy military presence there. And with his face toward the East Sea, to the east, you have the Persian Gulf, and above the Persian Gulf, Iran, the main target of the U.S., as well as the state of Israel in that Middle Eastern region. And to the northeast, you have Iraq with the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, and the U.S. also has a military presence there as well. And his hinder part toward the utmost sea behind him, and you've got the Red Sea, and you've got a lot of issues going on in there with what? The U.S. Navy and those Houthi Yemeni rebels. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things, a great slaughter of U.S. military personnel in that Middle Eastern region. Hence why the virgins and the wives and, the women are going to mourn, because their men were killed in the wars which they were drafted into. And as we've been going into with that information, things are getting desperate out here with recruitment with these different branches in the military, to where when this war truly kicks off, they're going to have no other choice but to enlist a draft. But that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala.